something a little different, but I think incredibly valuable. It's a personal reflection from someone named Liba on her journey learning to speak English.
Ah, okay. Like a first-hand account.
Exactly. And our goal in this deep dive is to really unpack her experience. Pull out the most helpful insights and practical advice for anyone learning a language, especially English.
That sounds great. Those personal stories often have the most resonance, don't they?
You really do. We want to make this whole process feel maybe less daunting, more achievable.
Yeah, what struck me right away when I looked at Liba's account was how human it is. It's not just about perfect grammar rules or anything. It's about the real feelings, the emotions, the mental shifts you go through learning to communicate.
So we get to learn directly from her experience.
Precisely. It's a fantastic opportunity.
And at its core, Liba's message, it feels really encouraging, I thought.
Yeah, it does.
It's about understanding that emotional side of language learning alongside the actual techniques and strategies. So we're going to explore how she faced her fears, what methods worked best for her, and ultimately how she built up the confidence to actually speak English.
Sounds like a really useful exploration.
Okay, let's really dig in here. One of the first things Liba mentioned that I think a lot of people can relate to is that initial fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Universal, almost.
She said she was genuinely scared of saying something wrong, maybe being laughed at.
Yeah.
Is that something you see a lot with language learners?
Absolutely. That fear of judgment, it's a huge hurdle for so many. But what's really insightful in Liba's journey is how she sort of reframed it.
How so?
She came to see mistakes not as something to avoid at all costs, but as, well, essential, a necessary part of learning.
Right. She said something like, making mistakes is part of learning. If we don't try, we can never improve.
Exactly that. It's about changing your perspective on those slip-ups.
It's so true. And I loved her analogy, the one about a baby learning to walk.
Ah, yeah, that was great.
Constantly falling down, but always getting back up. It really helps you see those language stumbles as just part of the process, not failure.
That analogy is so powerful because, well, we all get that, don't we? Learning to walk means falling. And what's interesting neurologically,
Go on.
well, just like a baby's brain forms connections for movement, your brain physically rewires itself learning a language. Each fall, each mistake, actually strengthens those new pathways.
Huh. So mistakes literally make your brain stronger for the language.
In a way, yes. Makes future steps in speaking smoother.
Okay, so if that fear starts to lessen, what were some key practices that helped Liba actually, absorb and use English?
Well, she talks quite a bit about just listening.
Right, just listening. How did that help?
She explained how it helped her ear get used to the sounds, the rhythm, the intonation of English, and she even picked up new phrases passively.
Passively. Like how?
Like listening to music, she said. You don't always analyze every lyric, but you absorb the melody, the feel.
And eventually some words stick.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
builds that essential foundation of familiarity. You might not consciously get every word, but your brain is soaking up patterns.
Which helps later with understanding and even pronunciation, I guess.
Definitely. And comparing it to music kind of lowers the pressure, doesn't it? It's not intense study.
Yeah, that makes sense. So moving from that passive listening to something more active,
Yeah.
Liba really emphasizes practice.
Practice is crucial.
Even if it's just talking to yourself. She admitted she did that.
Oh, yeah.
Said it felt a bit strange, maybe, but was genuinely helpful. What do you think about self-talk for language learning?
I think it's a fantastic technique, actually, especially early on.
Why is that?
It totally lowers the stakes, right? There's zero fear of judgment if you're the only one listening.
True. A safe space.
Exactly. You can experiment with sentences, try out vocabulary, just get comfortable with the physical act of speaking the words.
And she mentioned simulating conversations, like asking and answering her own questions.
Yeah, that's a really clever way to rehearse. Prepares you for actual interactions.
Okay, something else that really stood out to me from Liba was her point about simplicity, not needing big fancy words.
Ah, yes. That's so important.
She said simple words are enough. Focus on just getting the message across.
That's it. Communication is the goal.
And she found people were generally kind and understanding, even if her English wasn't perfect.
That really resonates. So many learners get caught up trying to sound, super advanced way too soon.
Yeah.
Definitely. But Liba's experience shows that empathy, that willingness to understand, often outweighs perfect grammar.
So human connection over perfect language.
Often, yes. It really underscores that.
Liba also mentioned reading aloud. She found that a real game changer.
Okay, reading aloud. How did she feel it helped?
She felt it helped her brain connect the written words with how they sound, like strengthening a connection.
Makes sense.
She used an analogy of exercising muscles, repetition, build strength. What's the benefit there?
Well, reading aloud creates this powerful multisensory experience.
Multisensory.
Yeah, you're seeing the words, you're physically saying them, and you're hearing them all at once.
Right, right. Visual, physical, auditory.
Exactly. And that simultaneous engagement really reinforces the link between the visual and the sound, crucial for reading and speaking fluency.
So her muscle analogy is pretty spot on then.
Very apt, yes. Consistent practice really does strengthen those neural pathways for language production.
And Liba also said it's okay, even normal, to ask for help if you don't know how to say something.
Absolutely. That shouldn't be seen as a weakness.
She framed asking questions as just, fundamental to learning. How can learners get over that hesitation to ask?
It's about a mindset shift, isn't it? Seeing questions as genuine chances to learn, not admissions of ignorance.
Right. Opportunities.
Exactly. It makes you more proactive, more engaged. You clarify things, fill the gaps faster. And honestly, most people are happy to help if you just ask.
Okay, now this next point from Liba is all about mindset again. Believing in yourself.
Ah, the power of belief. Crucial.
She's really encouraging here. Says if you tell yourself, I can learn this, you will see progress.
That internal dialogue is so impactful.
And she compares it to climbing a mountain. You reach the top through small, consistent steps. How vital is that self-belief?
Oh, it's hugely important in any learning, really, but language learning for sure. It directly impacts your motivation, your resilience when things get tough.
So that mountain analogy captures the gradual progress.
Perfectly. It's about consistent effort plus that firm belief you can get there.
And building on that, she really pushes people to just start speaking now. Don't wait until you feel ready.
Yes. Don't wait for perfect.
She used that lovely image of planting a tree's slow, steady growth needs consistent watering. Why start speaking early, even if you feel unsure?
That immediacy is just vital, putting it off. Well, that often just builds more anxiety, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see that.
Starting now, even with simple phrases, builds momentum. You get used to actually saying the words. And you get real-world feedback.
So the tree analogy fits that long-term, consistent effort idea.
Beautifully, yes. Small efforts add up significantly over time.
Liba also makes this really freeing distinction, I think. Prioritize bravery over perfection.
Bravery over perfection. I like that.
Yeah, shift focus from being perfect to just being brave enough to try speaking. Each attempt strengthens the muscle, she says.
That totally reframes the goal, doesn't it? Away from unattainable perfection towards process.
Making it more achievable.
Exactly. Every time you speak, errors and all, you're building confidence, building fluency. It's valuing the effort, the progress, not just flawless output.
She also talks about learning from media movies, TV shows in English.
Ah, yes. Watching and listening.
And she points out it's not just the words, but understanding nonverbal cues too. Hand gestures, expressions, tone of voice.
Right. Because language is so much more than words.
It's about communicating feelings, intentions.
Yeah.
How does media help with that?
Well, authentic media gives you that crucial context. Language is tied to culture, to all those subtle cues.
You learn the unspoken stuff too.
Exactly. You develop a more nuanced understanding. It's fascinating how much meaning comes from tone and expression, like she said. It shows the emotional core of language.
Liba also offers some reassurance about feeling stuck. That slow progress is normal.
Oh, that's such an important message. Plateaus happen.
She compares it to climbing a hill. Sometimes you're quick, sometimes slow, but you're still moving forward. How do you stay motivated then?
Recognizing it's normal is the first step. It's not failure.
Right.
Liba's hill analogy is comforting, isn't it? Progress isn't always a straight line upwards. Forward movement is still happening, even if it feels slow.
And then she gets practical again, suggesting setting small, daily goals.
Yeah, breaking it down.
Like learning a few new words or focusing on pronunciation for a bit. Why are small daily goals so good?
It makes the huge task of fluency feel, well, less overwhelming, more manageable.
One step at a time.
Exactly. And hitting those mini milestones gives you a constant sense of achievement. That really fuels motivation long term, creates a sustainable rhythm.
And alongside that, Liba stresses celebrating your progress, even small wins.
Yes, acknowledge the victories.
Learned a new word, had a simple chat. Take a moment to feel proud. Why is that self-acknowledgement so key?
Positive reinforcement is crucial. Celebrating small wins builds confidence, encourages you to keep going,
Shifts the focus from what you can't do yet.
to appreciating how far you've already come. Precisely.
Liba also found keeping a journal helpful, writing in simple English about her day.
Journaling, another great practice.
She felt it helped her start thinking in English more naturally. How does writing help with thinking?
Journaling integrates practice into your routine in a really low-pressure way. It's a safe space to play with sentences, new words.
And doing it regularly solidifies things.
Yeah, and by keeping it simple, like Liba suggests, it's accessible even for beginners. It helps you get comfortable expressing thoughts directly in English over time.
Which leads to that big goal for many, thinking in English, not translating.
Right. Moving away from constant mental translation.
Liba compared it to the natural flow of dancing, almost effortless.
Yeah.
How can learners make that shift?
Thinking in the target language is a huge step towards fluency. Definitely. It speeds things up, makes expression more spontaneous.
And the dancing analogy captures that flow.
Perfectly. That sense of instinct that comes with practice and immersion. Strategies. Try describing your surroundings in English in your head.
Oh, okay, like narrating your life internally.
Sort of. Or try forming thoughts in English before you speak. Consciously resist translating every single word.
Liba also mentioned finding practice partners, other people learning English.
Yeah, peer learning. Very valuable.
She said the initial awkwardness can turn into fun, learning together, laughing at mistakes. What are the benefits there?
Incredibly motivating and supportive. Practicing with fellow learners creates a safe space. You feel more comfortable making mistakes.
And you learn from each other.
Absolutely. That shared journey, the camaraderie, it makes the whole thing less intimidating, more enjoyable.
Now, talking to native speakers,
Yeah.
that can be nerve-wracking.
Understandably so.
But Liba says most are kind and patient and see corrections as learning opportunities, not criticism.
That's such an important point to remember.
How can learners build that confidence to interact?
Well, interacting with native speakers gives you that invaluable real-world exposure, natural language.
Right. But the nerves.
Acknowledge the nerves are normal, but hold on to Liva's point about kindness. Reframe corrections as helpful feedback. Start small, low-pressure chats and build up.
Liba also acknowledges the frustrating days, feeling stuck, wanting to give up.
Yeah, those happen. It's part of it.
But she emphasizes the inner strength you already have just by wanting to learn. How do you tap into that strength?
Recognizing and validating the frustration is key. It doesn't mean you're failing.
Okay.
Try to reconnect with why you started. Remember the courage it took to begin. Just acknowledging the feeling without judgment can help you move past it.
She also describes English beautifully, like a bridge and a key,
Connecting people globally.
enabling travel, friendships, cultural exchange. How do you keep that big picture in mind?
Focusing on those broader rewards is a powerful motivator. It's not just grammar, it's access to new cultures, perspectives, opportunities.
So reminding yourself why you're learning helps.
Definitely. Visualizing those future possibilities gives you that long-term perspective, reinforces the value of the effort.
Liba is also really big on being kind to yourself. Patient.
Self-compassion, absolutely vital.
Don't beat yourself up over mistakes. Adopt a growth mindset. Tell yourself, I'm learning, I'm getting better every day.
Yes. That positive self-talk is crucial for a healthy learning environment. It fosters resilience, a better attitude towards the whole process.
It takes time.
Learning takes time. Being kind to yourself along the way keeps you motivated and engaged.
And Liba talks about those wonderful aha moments.
The breakthroughs. So rewarding.
Suddenly understanding something or communicating effortlessly where you used to struggle. She says these show your progress.
They're tangible evidence of learning. Highly motivating. You have to take time to acknowledge and celebrate them when they happen.
Like little boosts of confidence.
Exactly. Powerful reminders of how far you've come. They really fuel you to keep going.
Liba also shares her own story, overcoming that initial fear, eventually having full conversations. Why are personal stories like that so helpful?
Her experience is just. It's a powerful, relatable example of what's possible.
Shows it can be done.
Right. Through perseverance, using these strategies, it offers real hope and encouragement to others facing similar fears. Knowing someone else got through it is incredibly inspiring.
She tells a nice little anecdote, too, about helping a tourist.
Oh, yeah.
And realizing in that moment, language is really about connecting with people. How can learners find those connection opportunities?
That kind of real-world application, feeling the positive impact of communicating across cultures, it really reinforces the rewards.
Makes it feel real.
Totally. Look for chances to use English daily online exchanges, local groups, even a quick chat with a tourist if you can. These moments highlight the human connection language enables.
Liba also reflects on unexpected benefits she gained,
Mm.
like patience, resilience.
Perseverance.
How does the challenge of language learning lead to personal growth?
Well, it's not just about acquiring a skill, is it? It's a journey of personal development. Facing those challenges, those setbacks, builds valuable life skills.
Patience, resilience, grit.
Exactly. Skills that help you everywhere, not just in language.
She also gives some really practical tips for weaving English into daily life. Small things,
Like what?
like describing your surroundings in English or thinking in English during chores. Why do these small immersion acts work?
They integrate the language into your routine naturally, makes it feel less like a separate subject you study.
It creates a constant connection.
Right, active engagement beyond just formal study time.
Liba also offers a reassuring thought. You don't need to know every word to communicate well.
So true. Simple words often work best.
She emphasizes that. How can learners feel confident communicating with maybe a limited vocabulary?
It reinforces that earlier point. Focus on communication, not perfection or a huge vocabulary. Master a core set of useful words and phrases.
And practice using them.
Yeah. You'll find you can say a lot with relatively little, and that success builds confidence to learn more.
And she circles back again to celebrating small victories.
Can't stress that enough.
Even successfully ordering food in English while traveling. Why acknowledge these seemingly minor things?
Because they build momentum. They reinforce that positive feedback loop. Each small success adds to your overall sense of achievement, encourages you to keep trying.
He also reframes mistakes again. Not failures, but proof you're trying.
And valuable learning opportunities.
How can learners really adopt that positive view of errors?
It's that growth mindset again. Consciously choosing to see mistakes as chances to learn reduces anxiety about speaking.
Makes you more willing to take risks.
Exactly. More willing to experiment, which ultimately leads to faster progress.
Liba also reminds listeners, you're not alone in this. Millions are learning English, sharing similar feelings.
That's a comforting thought, isn't it?
How can learners connect with that global community?
Knowing you're part of this huge group reduces isolation, gives a sense of shared purpose. Seek out connections, online forums, apps, local groups.
Sharing experiences helps.
Incredibly beneficial, learning from others too.
She also points out that learning is continuous, an ongoing journey, even for native speakers.
Yeah, language is always evolving.
Why is that long-term perspective helpful?
It's realistic. Language isn't a destination you just arrive at. It's ongoing refinement, deepening understanding.
Takes the pressure off achieving perfection quickly.
Exactly. Allows you to enjoy the process of continuous learning and growth.
And Liba touches on confidence again, even when you're unsure.
Fake it till you make it sometimes.
Sort of. She says confidence comes from willingness to try, not perfection. And projecting confidence helps interactions.
It really can have a self-fulfilling effect. Just being willing to try, despite imperfections, builds actual confidence over time.
How do you cultivate that?
Focus on what you can do. Celebrate those abilities. Don't dwell on what you feel you can't do yet.
Liba also strongly encourages surrounding yourself with English. Music, movies, books.
Immersion, yeah.
She feels it helps the language feel more natural, less foreign. Why is immersion so effective?
It's just a really powerful tool. Consistent exposure helps you internalize the rhythm, vocabulary, grammar more intuitively, almost by osmosis.
Creates a more natural learning environment.
Less forced, yeah.
And importantly, make learning fun. Games, songs, online communities.
Absolutely. Enjoyment is key.
Why bring fun into it? Isn't it serious work?
Well, fun increases engagement, motivation. If you're enjoying it, you're more likely to stick with it.
But you might learn more easily?
Often, yes. You absorb things more readily when you're relaxed and having fun.
Finally, Liba comes back to consistency. It's key.
The recurring theme.
Small, regular efforts beat sporadic cramming. Why is consistency so much better?
Regular effort, even short bursts daily, lets your brain gradually absorb and process. Intense sessions can be overwhelming.
It's about building a habit.
A sustainable habit,
Yeah.
reinforcing knowledge ongoingly. Like watering that plant regularly, small amounts lead to healthy growth.
And Liba ends by acknowledging that learning a language is brave, a courageous thing to do.
It really is, stepping outside your comfort zone like that.
And she encourages trusting the process, even when progress feels invisible. It's a journey worth taking.
Recognizing that courage is important. Trusting the process means having faith your efforts will pay off, even if you can't see it day to day. It's a testament to dedication.
So to sort of wrap up Liba's really insightful journey, learning English or any language, it's fundamentally built on small, consistent steps.
Right, absolutely. Brick by brick.
It requires definitely a willingness to embrace mistakes as learning chances.
Crucial mindset shift.
And maybe most importantly, it hinges on believing you can learn, grow, and connect.
That belief fuels everything else. What's really striking about her experience is how she weaves the practical advice with those essential mindset shifts.
Yeah, it's not just about rules and lists.
No, it's a reminder that language learning is also this deeply personal, often emotional journey of discovery and connection.
Exactly. So drawing from Liba's wisdom, here's our final thought for you listening.
Okay.
What small, maybe slightly uncomfortable step could you consciously take today to actively engage with English in a new way?
Just one small step.
Yeah, maybe it's striking up a simple conversation, writing just one sentence in English, actively listening to a new podcast or song.
Something manageable but intentional.
Right. And then think, how might that seemingly small act, if you repeat it consistently, contribute to a much larger, really transformative journey over time?
That's a great question to ponder.
Really take a moment to think about that one. And thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something a little different, but I think incredibly valuable.
Yeah. What have we got?
It's a personal reflection from someone named Liba, all about her journey learning to speak English.
Ah, okay. A first-hand account. This could be really insightful.
Exactly. And our goal here, our sort of mission for this deep dive, is to really unpack her experience. We want to pull out the most helpful insights, the practical advice for anyone, learning a language, especially English.
Making it feel less daunting, maybe. More achievable.
That's it, precisely. We want to make it feel more achievable for you listening.
You know what strikes me immediately about accounts like this, like Liba's, is how human they are. It's not usually about, like, nailing every grammar rule perfectly.
No, it's more about the feelings, right? The real emotions and those kind of mental shifts involved in actually communicating in a new way.
Yeah, so we get a chance to learn directly from her lived experience, which is fantastic.
Totally. And at its heart, Liba's message, it feels really encouraging. It's about understanding that emotional side of language learning alongside the actual techniques.
The strategies, yeah.
So we're going to explore how she faced her fears, what methods worked best for her, and, ultimately how she built up the confidence to speak English. Okay, let's really dig in here.
Let's do it.
One of the very first things Liba mentioned, and I think a lot of listeners can relate to this, is that initial fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yes. The classic.
She said she was genuinely scared of saying something wrong, maybe people laughing at her. Is that something you see a lot with language learners?
Oh, absolutely. That fear of judgment, it's a really significant hurdle for so many people.
Right.
But what's really insightful in Liba's story is how she sort of shifted her perspective. She came to see mistakes not as, failures to be avoided, but actually as a necessary part of learning.
Okay, so embracing them, almost.
Kind of. She put it really well. Making mistakes is part of learning. If we don't try, we can never improve. It's about reframing those moments entirely.
That makes sense. And I loved her analogy, the baby learning to walk, always falling down, but always getting back up.
Such a good one.
It really helps you see those stumbles in language as just, part of the process, not some big personal failure,
That analogy is brilliant because we all get it, right? We know learning to walk involves falling. And what's interesting neurologically is that it's similar. Your brain is literally rewiring itself when you learn a language.
Really?
Yeah. Each fall, each mistake, it actually helps strengthen those new connections, those neural pathways. It makes the next step in speaking a bit smoother.
Wow. Okay. So if we accept the mistakes, let that fear start to ease off a bit. What were some key things that helped Liba actually absorb and use English? She talks quite a bit about listening.
The power of listening.
Yeah, how it helped her ear get used to the sounds, the rhythm of English. She even said she'd pick up phrases passively, like listening to music. Does that track?
Oh, definitely. Listening provides that essential input. It builds familiarity with the sounds, the intonation, the natural flow.
Even if you don't understand everything.
Exactly. You might not consciously catch every word, but your brain is busy absorbing patterns and sounds, and that helps later a lot with both understanding and your own pronunciation.
Right.
And comparing it to music is clever, isn't it? It takes the pressure off. It's not like intense study. It's more passive enjoyment.
Okay, so moving from that passive listening to more active stuff, Liba really emphasizes practice. Even, and this made me smile, even just talking to yourself.
The self-talk technique.
Yeah, she admitted she did it, said it felt a bit weird, but it genuinely helped. What's your take on self-talk for language learning?
I think it's a fantastic technique, honestly,
Okay.
especially early on. It just lowers the stakes completely,
So
right?
no one's listening.
Precisely. Zero fear of judgment. It's this safe space where you can experiment, form sentences, try out new words, just get comfortable with the physical act of saying the words in English.
And she mentioned simulating conversations, like asking and answering her own questions.
Yeah, that's a really smart way to do it.
Nora.
It's like rehearsing for the real thing.
Huh. Okay, something else that really jumped out at me from Liba's story was her point about simplicity, not needing big, fancy words.
That's crucial.
She said, simple words are enough. The focus should just be on getting your message across. She even mentioned how kind people were, even when her English wasn't perfect. Do learners often get tripped up trying to sound too advanced?
Oh, definitely. It's such a vital point she makes. Language is for communication, first and foremost, and clarity often comes from simplicity.
Right.
Many learners feel this pressure, maybe from school or something, to use complex words. But Liba's experience, it highlights empathy. People want to understand, usually.
So the connection matters more than perfect grammar.
In many everyday situations, absolutely. That genuine human connection often outweighs a huge vocabulary or flawless sentence structure.
Liba also mentioned reading aloud, said it was a real game changer for her.
Okay, yeah. Reading aloud.
She felt it helped her brain connect the written word with the spoken sound. And she used another analogy, exercising muscles. Repetition makes them stronger. Why is reading aloud so effective?
Well, it creates this powerful multisensory learning experience, doesn't it? You're seeing the words, you're physically saying them, and you're hearing them.
All at once.
Yeah, that simultaneous engagement really cements the link between the visual and the sound of the language, which is vital for both reading better and speaking more fluently. Her muscle analogy, spot on. Consistent practice strengthens those language pathways in the brain.
And following on from that, it was encouraging to hear her say it's totally normal to ask for help, if you don't know how to say something.
Absolutely okay to ask.
She framed asking questions not as weakness, but as just fundamental to learning. How can people get over that hesitation to ask?
It's a mindset shift, isn't it? Seeing questions as real chances to learn, not admissions of failure or ignorance.
Right. Not, I don't know, but help me understand.
Exactly. It encourages you to interact more, clarify things, and fill in those knowledge gaps much faster. And honestly, most people are quite happy to help if you ask politely.
Now, this next bit from Liba is all about mindset, the power of your own thinking, believing in yourself.
Self-belief. Crucial.
She's so positive here. Says if you tell yourself, I can learn this, you will see progress. And she compares it to climbing a mountain. You get there through small, steady steps. How critical is that self-belief?
Oh, it's hugely important. You really can't overstate it in any learning, but especially language. That inner voice, your internal dialogue, it massively impacts your motivation, your grit, your ability to push through challenges.
So if you think you can't, you probably won't.
It makes it much, much harder. Liba's mountain analogy is perfect. Progress is often slow, gradual. It comes from consistent effort, plus that belief that you can actually reach the summit.
And she builds on that by urging people to just start. Start speaking now. Don't wait until you feel perfectly ready.
Yes. Don't wait for perfect.
She uses that lovely image of planting a tree needs slow, steady growth, consistent watering. Why is starting early so vital even if you feel unsure?
That immediacy is key. Putting off speaking until you feel ready, well, that ready moment might never come, or it just delays things and builds up anxiety.
Right, the fear grows.
Exactly. Starting now, even with really simple stuff, builds momentum. You get used to actually speaking, and you get that invaluable real-world practice and feedback, even if it's just from yourself at first. The tree analogy, it captures the long game of language learning. Small, consistent efforts lead to big growth over time.
Liba also makes this distinction that I think is really freeing. Bravery over perfection.
I like that. Bravery over perfection.
Yeah. Shift your focus from being flawless to just being brave enough to try. Each attempt is like strengthening that muscle, she says. It gets stronger with use. How can learners really embrace that?
Well, it totally reframes the goal, doesn't it? Away from this impossible ideal of perfection towards something more process-focused, more achievable.
Focus on the trying, not just the outcome.
Exactly. Every single time you try to speak, mistakes and all, you are building confidence, building fluency. It's about valuing the effort, valuing the progress, not just aiming for flawless execution every single time.
She also talks about learning from media movies, TV shows in English.
Oh yeah, that's a big one for immersion.
But she points out it's not just the words, it's understanding the nonverbal stuff too. Hand gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice. Language is about communicating feelings, she says.
That speaks to the whole picture of language, doesn't it? It's way more than just vocab lists and grammar rules. It's tangled up with culture, with all those nonverbal signals.
Right.
Watching authentic media gives you that crucial exposure. You start to get a more nuanced feel for communication. It's amazing how much meaning comes through tone or a look, like she says. It highlights the emotional core.
Liba also offers some reassurance about feeling stuck. That feeling of hitting a wall or progress slowing down, she says it's totally normal.
Oh, the plateau phase. Every learner hits it.
She compares it to climbing a hill where your speed varies, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. But the key is remembering you're still moving forward. How can people stay motivated during those plateau times?
Recognizing it's normal is the first step. It's not a sign you're failing. Liba's hill climbing analogy is comforting, isn't it? Progress isn't always a straight line upwards.
No, it's zigs and zags.
Exactly. It might feel slower sometimes, but forward movement is still happening, even if it's less obvious for a while.
So she then gives some really practical tips, like setting small goals every day.
Bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, maybe learn a few new words or focus on one pronunciation point. Why is breaking it down like that so helpful?
Well, the big goal fluency can feel massive, overwhelming. Breaking it into small daily tasks makes it feel manageable, less scary.
And you get wins along the way.
Exactly. You meet these mini milestones regularly. That gives you a constant sense of accomplishment, of progress, which is huge for keeping motivation up long term. It creates a sustainable rhythm.
And Liba also really stresses celebrating that progress. Even the small wins, learning a new word, having a simple chat, taking a moment to feel proud. Why is that acknowledgement so key?
Positive reinforcement. It's crucial for sticking with anything hard. Actively noticing and celebrating even tiny victories builds your confidence. It encourages you to keep going.
Shifts the focus, maybe.
Definitely. Shifts it from what I can't do yet to look how far I've already come. It's appreciating the journey.
Liba also mentioned keeping a journal. Just writing about her day in simple English, she felt it helped her start thinking in English more. How does journaling help with that mental shift?
Journaling is a great way to weave practice into your daily life, but in a low-pressure way. It's a safe space to play with sentences, try out words.
Yo, audience.
Right. And doing it regularly helps solidify what you're learning. By keeping it simple English, like she suggests, it's accessible even for beginners. It helps you get comfortable expressing your own thoughts directly in English rather than translating.
And that leads to the big one, thinking in English, moving away from translating everything in your head.
The goal for many.
Liba compares it beautifully to dancing that natural, effortless flow. What strategies help learners make that shift?
Thinking in the target language, it's a major step towards fluency, yeah.
Yeah.
It lets you skip that mental translation step, which is often slow, and allows for more spontaneous speech.
Like the dancing analogy becomes instinctual.
Exactly. With practice and immersion, some strategies. Actively narrate your surroundings in English, even just in your head. Try to form thoughts in English before speaking. Consciously resist translating every single word you hear or want to say.
That sounds hard, but worth it. Liba also talks about finding practice partners, other people learning English.
Yeah, peer learning. Very valuable.
She mentions that initial awkwardness can turn into fun, learning together, laughing at mistakes. What are the benefits there?
Well, it can be incredibly motivating and supportive. Practicing with other learners creates this safe zone. You feel more comfortable making mistakes. You learn from each other.
Shared experience.
Yeah, that camaraderie, that shared journey, it can make the whole thing much more enjoyable and way less intimidating.
Okay, but then there's the next step, native speakers. That can be nerve-wracking.
Definitely can be.
But Liba makes a great point. Most native speakers are actually kind and patient. And corrections. They're learning opportunities, not criticism. How can learners build confidence for those interactions?
Interacting with native speakers gives you that invaluable real-world exposure. Language in its natural habitat, so to speak.
Right.
Feeling nervous is totally normal, but remembering Liba's point about kindness is key. And try to reframe corrections. See them as helpful feedback to improve faster. Maybe start small, low-pressure situations, then build up.
Liba also gets real about frustrating days. Times you feel you're going nowhere, maybe you want to give up.
We've all been there with something hard.
But she emphasizes the inner strength you already showed just by wanting to learn. How can learners tap into that strength when things get tough?
Just acknowledging the frustration is important. Validating it. Saying, okay, this feels hard right now.
Not fighting it?
Not judging yourself for it. Remembering it's normal, it doesn't mean you're failing. Then try to reconnect with your why. Why did you start learning in the first place? Remembering the courage it took to even begin. Sometimes just naming the feeling helps you move through it.
Liba has this lovely description of English as a bridge, a key, connecting you to people worldwide, enabling travel, friendships, cultural exchange. How does keeping that big picture in mind help motivation?
Focusing on those bigger rewards is a powerful motivator, isn't it? It's not just about grammar. It's about access to cultures, ideas, opportunities.
The why.
Exactly. Reminding yourself of your personal reasons, visualizing those future possibilities, gives you that long-term perspective. It reinforces why the effort is worthwhile.
And she's so encouraging about being kind to yourself. Patient. Don't beat yourself up over mistakes. Adopt a growth mindset. I'm learning, getting better every day. Why is self-compassion so vital?
Oh, it's essential. Creates a healthier learning space in your head. Replacing that negative self-talk with encouragement fosters resilience. It makes the whole process more positive.
Less stressful.
Way less stressful. Remember, learning takes time. Being kind to yourself is crucial for staying motivated and actually enjoying it, or at least enduring it.
And Limba talks about those wonderful aha moments, suddenly understanding something or communicating easily where you once struggled. She flags these as progress indicators. How can learners spot and appreciate those?
Those breakthroughs are gold. They're tangible proof you are learning. They can be incredibly rewarding, a real motivation boost.
So notice them.
Yes. Take a moment. Acknowledge it. Celebrate it, even internally. These aha moments remind you how far you've come and fuel you to keep going.
Liba also shares her own story, overcoming that initial fear, eventually having full conversations. Why are personal stories like hers so powerful for others?
Because they make it real. Her experience is this relatable example of what's possible. If she could do it, starting from that place of fear, maybe I can too.
Gives hope.
Exactly. Hope and tangible encouragement. Knowing someone else navigated that same path successfully can be incredibly inspiring, especially when you're facing similar challenges yourself.
She tells a nice little story about helping a tourist and realizing in that moment, language is about connection, people connecting with people. How can learners actively seek those connections?
That kind of real-world moment where you see the direct positive impact of your language skills really hits home. It shows the practical and emotional reward.
So look for chances.
Yeah. Look for chances to use English daily. Online exchanges, local conversation groups, even a quick chat with a tourist if it happens naturally. These interactions really highlight that beautiful human connection that language makes possible.
Liba also reflected on unexpected benefits. She gained more patience, resilience, understanding, perseverance. How can the challenge of language learning lead to personal growth?
Well, learning a language isn't just about the language skill itself, is it? It's a journey of growth. The challenges, the setbacks you inevitably face, they build valuable life skills.
Like what?
Patience, definitely. Resilience, bouncing back. Perseverance when things are tough. These are skills that help you everywhere in life, not just with languages.
She also gives practical tips for weaving English into daily life. Small things, like describing your surroundings in English or thinking in English during tasks. Why are these small immersions effective?
These little, consistent acts, they integrate the language into your routine, make it feel more natural, less like a separate school subject.
Constant contact.
Right. Engaging with English beyond just study time creates a more continuous connection.
Liba also reassures people. You don't need to know every word to communicate well. Simple words often work fine. How can learners feel more confident even with limited vocab?
It comes back to that point about communication over perfection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Focus on mastering a core set of useful words and phrases. practice using them.
Get good mileage out of them.
Exactly. You'll probably find you can say a surprising amount. And that success builds confidence, which encourages more learning. It's a positive cycle.
And she circles back to celebrating small victories again, even just ordering food successfully. Why keep hammering that point?
Because recognizing those small wins is crucial for momentum. It reinforces that positive feedback loop. Each little success adds up to a bigger sense of achievement and keeps you putting in the effort.
Liba also reframes mistakes again. Not failures, but proof you're trying. Opportunities for growth. How can learners really adopt that positive view?
It's that growth mindset again, isn't it? Consciously choosing to see mistakes as learning chances, not disasters. It seriously lowers the anxiety around speaking.
Makes you more willing to try.
Much more willing to take risks, experiment, which, paradoxically, leads to faster progress in the long run.
Liba offers another comforting thought. You're not alone. Millions are learning English, probably feeling similar things. How can people connect with that global community?
Knowing you're part of this huge group can be really comforting, less isolating. It gives a sense of shared purpose.
Gotta connect.
Actively look. Online forums, language exchange apps, local groups if they exist, sharing experiences, learning from others in the same boat. It can be incredibly helpful and motivating.
She also stresses that learning is a continuous journey, ongoing, even for native speakers. Why is that long-term view helpful?
It sets realistic expectations. Language isn't a destination you just arrive at and stop. It's always evolving. You're always refining, learning more, deepening understanding.
Takes the pressure off.
Exactly. Takes the pressure off achieving perfection quickly. Allows you to enjoy the process of continuous learning and growth more.
And Liba mentions confidence again, even if you're unsure. Confidence from the willingness to try, not from being perfect. Projecting confidence helps. How to cultivate that willing confidence.
Confidence, even if you have to fake it till you make it a bit at first, can be self-fulfilling. Just being willing to try, despite imperfections, builds real confidence over time as you gain experience and see you can do it.
So focus on what you can do.
Yes, focus on your abilities, celebrate them, rather than dwelling on the gaps.
Liba strongly suggests surrounding yourself with English, music, movies, books. Helps it feel more natural, less foreign. Why does immersion work so well?
Immersion is just incredibly powerful. Constant exposure in different forms helps you internalize the language, its rhythm, vocab, grammar, more intuitively, almost like osmosis.
Less like forced study.
Yeah, it creates a more natural learning environment.
And she also says, make it fun. Games, songs, online communities. Why is enjoyment important?
Because if it's enjoyable, you'll stick with it. Fun increases engagement, motivation. You're more likely to be consistent, and you often absorb things more easily when you relax and having a good time.
Finally, Liba repeats a core theme. Consistency is key. Small, regular efforts beat sporadic cramming. Why is consistency so much better?
Regular, consistent effort, even short bursts daily, is way more effective than occasional marathon sessions. It lets your brain gradually absorb and process information over time.
Building habits.
Exactly. Building a sustainable learning habit, reinforcing knowledge constantly. Like watering that plant she mentioned, regular small amounts lead to healthy growth.
And Liba finishes by acknowledging learning a language is brave, encourages trusting the process, even when progress isn't obvious. It's a journey worth taking.
Recognizing that courage is important. Trusting the process means having faith your efforts will pay off, even if you can't see the results immediately. It's a real testament to dedication, stepping outside your comfort zone.
So, to kind of wrap up Liba's incredible insights, learning English, or any language really, it seems it's fundamentally about those small, consistent steps, isn't it?
Definitely. Small steps, consistently taken.
And absolutely needing that willingness to embrace mistakes, see them as learning moments, and maybe most importantly, that core belief in yourself that you can learn, grow, and connect.
What's really striking, reflecting on her experience, is how she weaves the practical tips, the what to do with those essential mindset shifts, the how to think about it.
Yeah, it's both sides of the coin.
It's such a powerful reminder. Language learning isn't just memorizing stuff. It's this deeply personal, often emotional journey, a journey of discovery and ultimately connection.
Exactly. So drawing from Liba's wisdom, here's our final thought for you listening. What small, maybe slightly uncomfortable step could you consciously take today to actively engage with English in a new way?
Could be anything, right?
Totally. Maybe striking up a really simple conversation, writing just one sentence in an English journal, actively listening to a new English song or podcast, just one small thing.
and thinking about how that tiny act, if you repeat it, could add up to something much bigger over time.
Exactly. How might that seemingly small act contribute to a much larger transformation down the road? Really take a moment to mull that over. And thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us.